Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Renew podcast. I am Kristen Andre, and I have in co-hosting duties today, Mr. Matt Steele, who is in the studio, as opposed to last time we did this remotely.
Yeah, this is cool. I'm excited.
I know. We're up here. You've joined us in Atlanta.
I have.
The frozen Atlanta. It's very cold up here.
The tundra.
The tundra of Atlanta. But we had some cool conversations leading up to this, because last time you were on the show, we talked a lot about kind of things that were wrong and what was going on. So what we're going to talk about today, and this got a lot of traction, is how whacked and messed up the educational system is right now.
I'm glad you said it, because that's pretty much how I would say it too. And sometimes people take that the wrong way, but it's a tremendously flawed system that all of our children are going through daily.
It is. And it's, I think we saw it. I knew it was coming. And then this year, where everybody stayed home and we switched to virtual learning, the differences and all the challenges are kind of in everybody's face, because parents had to become teachers. Kids are, complaining about schoolwork. And I think, at least for me with my kids, for the first time, I got to see more of what they're doing. And it's a waste. A lot of it's a waste.
Yeah, it is. I felt that way when I was going through it. So a lot of the stuff that I'll talk about today is going to center around my experiences in school, which were questionable at best. But then my son, who's basically a little carbon copy of myself. Yeah. And now I watch him going through it, and I'm like, man, it hasn't changed. And has the same issues that I had.
Well, and that's the challenge is there's two sets of people. So you and I've had this conversation. I was kind of the nerdy academic one. I loved school. I loved learning. I loved all the stuff. But even looking back, there's so much stuff that we learned that we didn't need. That to this day, I have still not used probably 90% of what was taught.
Yeah, there is a lot of that stuff as far as just thinking, if you're not in a specific career that needs that advanced math or that advanced science, or I still wonder why I had to study all that Shakespeare stuff, which I'm sure there was something to it.
There's good stuff. They've made good movies out of it. You could watch the movie though and pretty much learn.
Yeah.
So what was interesting is we decided to do a little experiment. Matt and I here did a little experiment with the help of my daughter. So we put together some questions and we started asking. We put a poll out. Some of you guys that are listening probably took the poll, and we thank you for that. But what was interesting is we asked two questions. One, what was not taught? Mm-hmm. What are the things that you did not learn in school? And what are the things that were taught that you think was a total waste of time? So overwhelmingly, the stuff that wasn't taught, everyone pretty much answered the same way. Don't you think?
Yes, they did. Regardless of age.
Yes.
Career, whatever, the main answer universally was all about finances.
It was all finance. And we had, just from the categories, we had people that were under 21. So we had about a quarter of our results were under the age of 21. Mm-hmm. We had some over the age of 70. The bulk of them were probably 20, 30s, 40s, I think, and when we look at who took the survey. But every single person, there was not one person that answered that didn't say financial literacy, financial anything. They know nothing about stocks. But what was crazy to me, the younger ones, and I had this conversation with my daughter, they don't know how to do a budget. They don't know how to write a check.
Right.
Like all these types of things that were, I don't know where we learned them. Like I think we had home ec. That was one of the ones that came up. We had home ec and shop when I was in school.
Yeah. Home ec and shop, 7th grade. And I remember those, because if you look back over your whole education, say from kindergarten to 12th grade, right?
Yep.
I'm not talking about college yet. We'll get into that.
To college.
That's a whole different subject. But I think back to the teachers that I remember and the classes that I remember. And there aren't many of either. Class-wise, home ec and shop, I had both of those in 7th grade. And shop class, if nothing else, it was safety when handling dangerous things.
Right.
That in itself
Common
is good
sense.
to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think people don't know that, because my daughter takes engineering now, and they were doing some woodworking, and she's the only girl in the class, and which I love. But the guys were scared to handle the tools.
Yeah.
They didn't know how. It was very. I mean, she was fine. She just jumped right in there. But like basic safety, they had to take a quiz and an assessment. They started with that. But I'm thinking by the 10th grade, you kind of should know basic safety around tools, and they didn't. My child did.
It's
I felt
disappointing.
Good. It's very disappointing. But everything's disappointing. That's what came out of this for me. I'm sitting here looking at the responses, and the ones that were from college and high school, it was just sad. Every one of them were like, we don't need this stuff. And they're going crazy. They have 2, 3, 4 hours of homework a night.
Yeah.
But none of it's relevant.
Or you're paying a lot of money for it too.
Yeah.
And you think about that, man, I don't know, because I'm very much, you know me, super entrepreneurial. I don't need anything. I'll figure it out, right? And that's not necessarily the best way to think, but it's worked out. And I understand you have to learn things, but man, look at all the problems in society. The problems with marriages, everything stems from money. Not everything, but
a
so
lot
much
of it
does.
Yeah.
And we're not being taught how to manage it effectively. It's like, hey, good luck. Here's some stuff that we're going to teach you. Memorize this. Take the test.
Right.
You'll probably never use it again. And we're not going to teach you about interest rates or the actual cost of a loan or how to balance your checkbook. You'll figure that out. Good luck.
Well, and that's what was interesting is I saw a meme because, you know, I like all these funny memes. And one of them said, it was a kid, and it said, I want to learn how to do my taxes. And the response was the teacher said, shut up and square dance. Because I don't know about you, we took square dancing.
Yes.
Did you take square dancing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so we took square dancing in school. I don't know if anybody listening took square dancing, but I was not good at it. It was not, maybe it was the partner. It was bad.
Yeah.
But I definitely did not learn how to do a budget or write a check. And I have a background in finance. So it's like I had college interns that were finance majors that couldn't do a budget. So why are schools not teaching it?
I don't know. And that's a great question. And the problem is, I don't want to go down this whole conspiracy theory thing. Yeah.
Well, you know what? We made it a good 5-10 minutes before you've started on the conspiracy theory.
Yes, because I'll be like, well, the system wants to keep us all down, you know, and I don't want to go down that route. But it doesn't make any sense because my ex-wife's younger sister, I sold them a house to her and her husband years ago. And I remember I said, you understand the difference between principal and interest and whatever. They're like, no, we don't understand any of that. They're buying a home, right?
Yes.
Like they're signing the documents to do all that. And they still don't know this. I said, well, when you get your first statement, bring it over to me and I'll walk you through this. This is important stuff that you need to know. And when I was explaining it to them, it was just foreign.
All right, so, but where did you learn that? Because we didn't learn that in school.
No.
We for sure didn't learn that in school.
I learned everything the hard way because I've basically screwed up everything that you could screw up and come through it. So my older brother was, he was a property appraiser. And I was in my early 20s and I was renting a condo and he's like, dude, you could buy that thing and pay less money. And so I think I saved up $1,500 and put that down. And I bought the condo, and my mortgage payment was $400 a month versus $750 for rent. So that was a real world application where I learned that.
Right.
And it was really from my older brother, thankfully. But it wasn't anything that my parents didn't teach it to me. My parents didn't teach me anything about investing, compounding interest, any of that stuff.
So there's been the argument before, because I've asked this and raised this question about why don't we teach this in school? And I think this is what, you know, everybody listening and myself, I want people to get pissed off about this right now and do something, because unless we change it, we're going to have another generation and 2 generations and 3 generations that get out of school with stuff crammed down their throat they don't need, but who can't balance checkbook or don't know, you know, that there's interest, or don't know, we're going to do a whole nother talk on debt, but don't know that debt needs to be repaid. I mean, there's some basic skills that I think we've got to talk to students, but not all students have the role model to do that. So I do feel like while the responsibility is on the parents, the schools need to do something. Like they don't, I said this the other day, my daughter filled out the survey, my middle one, and she had to take a class in school called Fairy Tales and Fables. And they were short on electives, so she actually had to take it twice. And during Fairy Tales, and you know what, if you guys are listening from her school and this makes you mad, I'm cool with that, because that's a dumb class.
It should, yes.
It's a dumb class. She took it twice. Fairy Tales and Fables, what they did is they read 3 versions of Cinderella and talked about the different styles of writing with Cinderella. But at the same time, I asked, because I went to the school, I was like, what classes are available? What do they teach? No financial literacy, no basic, life skills. We were having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday about life skills.
Yeah.
They aren't teaching, how to cook, how to sew, how to change a tire, how to, communicate with other people. That came up a lot too. Kids don't know how to talk or ask questions.
That is only getting worse with the technology too, with their phones. And I sound like old guy talking here, but
We're getting there.
We had a situation and you had to resolve it. You resolved it through communication. You resolved it through a conversation.
Right.
That's how you did it. And so I feel like that's another foreign concept now,
So what kept coming up, if I look back over some of the survey results, financial literacy was a big thing, but communication was in there as well, because people were saying they don't know how to talk to others, because everything was so shortened and texting and abbreviated. They don't know how to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And they also don't know how to put forth their ideas. So part of it is, if we're going to change the educational system, which it needs to be changed, we've got to be able to talk about what we want. Now, the kids can't talk about it. Now, what was interesting when I asked for the survey, some of these responses were long.
Right.
Like really long, and they were thought out. So the kids know this, and that's what's interesting. They're not saying anything. As soon as we asked for the survey results, and a lot of the people are high school and college, they're like, yeah, this is what we hate. We don't need this. We don't need that. We don't need that. But no one's rocking the boat while they're there.
The kids feel that way. We talk to other adults, other parents. They all feel that way.
Yeah.
It's like this is the elephant in the room that nobody's doing anything about.
So that's why we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's, and I know my kids are in public school. I know you guys did private for a while.
Right.
And so not that one's better than the other. I will say I feel like private schools have more of an opportunity to evoke change. And I talked to a friend of mine, Rick, who works for a private school, and they're doing some stuff. They're teaching some of these entrepreneurial skills and communication skills. But in the public school, they need to do that too. Like I have a child last semester was learning about the layers of the ocean floor and the layers of the earth and all this. And she's studying and she just wasn't getting it. And she's like, when am I going to need to know this? I'm like, never. You're going to need to know this for your test. And then you're going to forget it. But I'm tired. As a parent, I'm tired of telling her that.
Yeah.
I'm tired of just saying, suck it up, study. I'm hoping she's developing good study skills, but I'm at the point now where I can't keep telling them that they need to study this because they don't.
I feel bad too. It's like I have these, sarcastically, I refer to it as the dad of the year moments, when Colton's like, Dad, what do I need this for? And I go, you will never need that. Yep. Don't even bother with it. And I'm like, oh wait, I probably shouldn't say that as your father. I should encourage you to study that and do better. But as a practical human being, you're like, that's worthless.
Yep.
Why are you even having to learn this? Because it's on a curriculum, and it's all this. Well, let's get a broad scope of knowledge over a lot of different things.
Yes,
I understand that as a thought process.
Yeah,
but it doesn't make any sense practically because you fall into something like what I do for a living is different, right? So I went to college, graduated, didn't need it.
Right.
In hindsight, it was a waste of time. All I did was party. 5.5 years. Yeah,
that's longer than the norm for college.
Yeah, to get a degree in organizational communication, which is the easiest degree.
Is that how you picked your major?
Yes, I did. Well, I started out as engineering. Those classes were way too hard. I switched over to business. Those classes were way too hard. I switched over to a couple other things.
Okay.
And finally, I went to the guidance counselor after about 3 years in, and I said, I just have to get out. I'm committed. I want to graduate for my own. I'm not going to leave. I'm not quitting. But what's the easiest way out? They go, organizational communication. Sign me up.
You're like, that's what you did. But you do communicate now. But like we were talking about this, your career, your job doesn't really require a degree.
No, my job requires relationship training, for lack of a better term, because it's all about relationships that I have with people that I work with, be it a venue in another part of the country, or a radio station, or a TV station, or a production company. I work with all these different people.
Yep.
The reason that they work with me and I work with them is we enjoy working with each other. We all work hard. We show up on time, and we do what we say we're going to do. Amazing, I know.
It's crazy. It's very, out there. But those are. But what you said, showing up on time, work ethic, communication skills.
Yeah.
If we could teach, and that's what kept coming up over and over and over again when we talked to people, it was, let's teach people to work hard. Mm-hmm. Let's teach them to be good humans. Let's help them know how to communicate, written form, verbally, interpersonal skills, and let's teach them financial literacy. Yeah. Those were overwhelmingly the responses that came up that people need to be taught, but they are nowhere in the curriculum.
if you could get a marginal handle of all of those things.
Yep.
4 or 5 different concepts, right? You don't even have to do any of them excessively well. You're just marginal at all of those.
You're mediocre.
You are guaranteed to be successful.
And that's what it is. But then we talk about, we did also ask what they're teaching that they don't need.
Yeah.
Like they're not teaching financial literacy. But what was interesting is when I started going through the results, when we were going through them last night, these are things that everyone has to take for years. So we had physics. I'm looking at some, most science and math courses, a language. I disagree with the language one, but it was chemistry, physics, trigonometry and geometry and calculus came up a lot.
Yeah.
So that was one of the big, so I think our college students were answering there, but I took calculus in high school or in college too. And I couldn't look at it now.
To this day,
I still don't use it.
What do people that are really good at calculus, like what career do you go into? And I don't mean to sound
calculus
like a dummy.
Teacher.
Okay.
I don't know.
Makes sense. Okay.
I mean, I feel like it is. So I have one of my nephews.
Surely there's something else.
I think you have to teach it, but there's, if engineering. So I would say, and this is what's been interesting, is there are certain professions that need calculus and all that type. So it's probably your engineers, things of that nature.
Right.
But most people, I would think, knew that they were going that path. Mm-hmm. So there's something, and somebody said on one of the surveys, we don't do anything to educate, or actually my niece said that last night, we don't do anything to educate people about what types of jobs are out there. Mm-hmm. So they get through high school and they're like, yeah, I might as well go to college because I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
No one, the people that know in high school, but we've never exposed them. So I think if we could get rid of the calculus and the 50 years of language, well, I like language, but calculus, chemistry, physics, unless they're going into a science field.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Also, it hasn't changed. The educational system hasn't changed, but technology has so much. You look at even going back to when we were in high school. So I was in high school as you were prior to the internet.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So somebody who's growing up now,
right,
that's always had the internet, you're like, oh, the internet's always been around. Well,
right.
No, it hasn't. For people like some of us, the internet wasn't around. We had to go to the library and look stuff up.
We had the Encyclopedia Britannicas.
Everything is right here.
Yep.
Seconds away. You don't have to memorize anything.
Yep.
And I'm not saying we should dumb ourselves down. And somebody would be like, oh, you're saying education's not important. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, there's so much minutia there's a limited amount of room, especially up in mine, right? And it's all full of like 80s metal and professional wrestling.
And wrestling.
Trivia.
I was about to say wrestling trivia.
If I could clear that junk out.
I'm not advocating they have a wrestling class in school. You would have taken that. That would have been your major.
Yes.
And you would have done well.
I should have been a pro wrestler. I just wasn't big enough. But I got to talk though. Listen, you throw me in like a feather boa and a cool robe and put me in front of a crowd.
But that's what we're talking about. That's communication skills.
That's a unique skill set.
But people, it is for you. But at the same time, you have to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
And kids nowadays can't. So I mean, the thing I want people to grasp and to start getting a little pissed off about is, and we're not even getting to how stressed these kids are, but we're making them study like crazy stuff where it's like they're not going to use it. Mm-hmm. So we know that suicide rates are up for kids. We know that the pressure they're under, they should not have 3 to 4 hours of homework a night.
No.
It's nuts. Like we aren't giving them any time to be kids. And I feel like if we could expose them to more, even like we were talking with Isaac, my daughter's in high school and she loves the production and she loves all this. She helped set up the studio at home and, we're going to bring her in here and let her just watch and observe and just, dabble in things. But there's no opportunity for that anymore.
There are so many ways to make a living and a good living in this country.
Yep.
Just if you can become an adult and not it's like in the construction business. Yeah. Some of the most successful people I know own AC companies, plumbing, all this, that, the other. And what I always say about that is, in the construction business, if you can avoid becoming an alcoholic or a drug addict, they're almost all successful. I feel like, and this is another topic that's sad, and I'm not making fun of this at all. So many people were doing so well, and they were a victim of their issues.
Yeah.
A lot of alcoholism, you know, and it ruins the business. It's sad because they had it made, and they were doing it. You know,
well, but it's also understanding kind of yourself, and that, you know, we had a couple people say that we aren't teaching, we're stressing kids out, we're stressing adults out, but we're not teaching them any coping skills to go with that. So there are ways in the educational system to do this, to teach them how to cope with stress, how to, you know, somebody had said whether you're teaching meditation or whatever it is, but being able to talk about their issues. Right now, I think kids are stuffers. I think they've got whatever issues they have and they keep them stuffed down, and until like an addiction happens or, you know, suicide attempts or something big.
And that's the method of coping, right?
Right.
Which is horrible.
Yeah.
But you look at pretty much anybody with an addiction problem like that, it's to mask another issue, right? It's covering something else up.
For sure.
And I agree with that homework deal. You know, kids need to be kids, and they're growing up so fast. You look at what the average kid knows now versus what we knew when we were kids.
Right.
Largely because of the internet and the amount of information that they have immediate access to. You know, it was probably good that I didn't have high-speed internet when I was a teenager.
Well, but you can learn a lot of stuff. So that begs the question, if they can learn it and kids will learn about what they're interested in. And I feel like part of where the educational system is doing kids a disservice is we're cramming so much irrelevant stuff at them. They don't have time to explore the things they're interested in. Yeah. Like if we had the internet and all this, you kind of knew what you liked. You would have been searching 80s metal or wrestlers or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, back then it was big, but we had to go to the library.
Yeah.
So now they can do it, but if we could find a way to let them explore, but right now we're keeping them busy. It's just, all we do is want stuff. We just want to keep them busy.
That's a great point.
Thank you.
It is. And so much of the school is just a place to send our kids all day while we're at work. You know?
Yeah. It's and it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be a babysitter. It shouldn't be that. But if we're going to send them there and keep them busy, let's keep them busy with good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if we really are real, the educational system, and now let me back up for a minute. I am in no way knocking the teachers.
No.
Because I will say, I know, you know, my daughter's teachers, I know a lot of them, we communicate a lot. They are trying so hard. Like their hearts are in the right place. The teachers are phenomenal. But it's the bureaucracy that's keeping them like, you have to teach this, you have to do that. Yeah. If we just let the teachers teach, the kids would develop a love of learning. Like my daughter told me, she said, I love learning, I hate school. And that's sad because she is very naturally curious, and she researches stuff on her own, and she's got, you know, real eclectic mix of, I mean, her favorite thing, she likes aerospace and the space industry. She's very into like the original SNL cast right now. So she's doing a lot, she likes old school rock. So she's trying to figure out like, I know it's really cool, but she doesn't have time to do that because she's always doing homework.
Right.
So you know, if we quit being busy, but the school system has not changed since what, the 40s, the 50s? We're still teaching it, but we're still teaching them back when like schools got bigger and we moved from the one classroom school, like we got away from Little House on the Prairie, right? And we went to grades. But ever since then, it was designed for people who go to school and they get out and they work a job, usually manufacturing or some kind of factory, until they die.
Yeah.
And that's it. But the society has changed, and we haven't changed the educational system.
Right.
Everything else we've updated except for that.
Yeah. I agree. And also to the point where kids need to be kids, just going back real quick before I forget, because, you know, sometimes I get a little absent-minded. And I go off on tangents. I don't know if you've noticed.
About conspiracy theories.
Yeah, what were we talking about? They see us, I say us as adults, and so many adults aren't fulfilled or happy with their career, right? And so you've got adults who aren't thrilled with their life, and they're telling their kids, hey, go to school so that you can get a job and all that. And the kids are going, well, you don't like the one that you have, so why do I want to do that?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's my future?
Right.
You come home upset and pissed off every day, and I want to do that?
But I agree, because the challenge is kids need something, but that goes back to the exposure. Kids don't know what's available. Yeah. Like, I feel like if we could have people that have cool jobs, and I mean, I think you and I are a little bit different than a lot of people, is we both love what we do.
Yeah.
but both of us do stuff that did not require all the schooling that we had.
And also, it hasn't always been like that for me. I haven't always enjoyed my jobs. This is what has ended up.
Yeah. You
know, it's morphed into this, thankfully.
Yeah.
Like I feel very fortunate to be doing what I do, but it wasn't always like that. Today is a byproduct of a lot of sacrifice and everything else,
right?
And messing things up, and it's like, okay, it's working out now.
But you learned from it.
Yeah, I did. But a lot of times, people in general will look at what you're doing now, and they see that, and that's cool, but they don't know what all went into it. And so, but how do you teach that? You know what's hard to teach is patience. How do you teach kids that you're not going to get everything that you want right away?
Yep.
You know, and the problem is, so many kids too, I think, look at the role models that are out there. It's like, well, this guy's got a hit song. Okay, yes. That's very rare.
Yep.
You know, this guy's a star athlete. That's very rare. Well, this guy makes millions on YouTube. Okay, there's a few people that do that. But your odds of being a millionaire YouTuber or a professional athlete or a singer, you know, professional entertainer, you might as well be, like, I got a better chance of playing for the NBA, you know, than any of that.
Well, it's true, but people, I mean, and that's cool if that's their dreams, but they also need to have some practicality behind it. But I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the exposure. And this does fall partially on the parents, but this also falls on the school system, is we need to explain to kids what options are. And every option is not, you need to study, and learn all this irrelevant crap, and then go get in debt. We're going to do another episode on debt, but you know, it's go to college and get all that. Now, I'm a big fan of education. Like I said, I'm a total nerd, but I'm a fan of learning and knowledge. But we can expose kids and we can teach them what careers look like just by introducing them.
I think going back to school, and I feel like I paint it with a negative brush, and I don't mean to. One of the highlights for me was when speakers would come in. I thought that was fascinating. It was like somebody would come in and speak about what they do, and all they were doing was exactly what you're saying.
Right.
They were coming to a class full of kids going, hey, you can do this, or you can do this, you can do this.
Right.
That was cool. And I'm sure there's a lot of that going on, but maybe there could be more of that.
But also an aptitude in figuring out what they're, so we did, I know one of the schools here, because I participated in it, had a career day, but it was at the elementary level. And it was, so they were like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. Well, you know, it was cool. And I went in and got to talk about, you know, being a writer and having the podcast, which no one in 3rd and 4th and 5th grade understands what that is.
Right.
And I paled in comparison to 2 people that were there. There was an FBI agent, actually 3. There was an FBI agent, so he got to carry his gun.
Oh, yeah.
So that was awesome.
Yes.
There was a former baseball player that had his World Series ring that he passed around the class. So that was cool. And there was a helicopter pilot who landed the helicopter on the playground.
Oh, you can't compete with that.
I couldn't compete with that. As cool as we think the podcast is. But that was career day. So these are so think about this. 3rd, 4th, 5th grades. Little kids.
Yeah.
So what do all of them leave wanting to do? I want to carry a gun. I want to be in the World Series. I want to fly a helicopter. Those are not common jobs.
Right.
You know, and then all the, you know, there was like somebody, when they got there and we were all talking beforehand, all the adults that were there to speak. And one of them was like I don't know if it was like an insurance adjuster or something. I'm like, you better have fun with this, buddy. But we don't, after that, that's 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And I've seen nothing past that unless we create it ourselves. So there's got to be an opportunity to just revamp. I want to just take the curriculum and just shred it up.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is the kids know what they need. Like they're sitting here saying life skills. I don't know. One of the results, I still don't know. And this was somebody who is in college. I still don't know much about loans, taxes, savings, building credit. Those are basic things.
You should actually, you know how you have to pass certain tests to get out of school?
Yes.
You ought to have a test that you have to pass on that. You ought to have to understand a loan. A loan, by definition, you got to pay it back, right? I know that's mind-blowing.
It's very out there concept.
People. But the actual cost of it, like Colton, my son, because he's around me, he understands interest. You know, he gets that as a concept.
Yeah.
He probably hates hearing about it, but
he understands it.
Yeah.
So
he'll thank me one day when he's about 40.
Well, but he's also not even old enough to open his own accounts or
Right.
anything like that because he's still underage, but he knows it. He gets it. But again, it is the role of the parent. It definitely is the role of the parent. And there is a responsibility, I feel, of our school systems. If we are going to have our kids sit there for 8 hours a day, I would love, maybe we start with, I don't know, an hour or two of it being relevant.
Yeah.
As opposed to right now, pretty much zero. But we got that. We got a lot of public speaking came up, like how to speak in front of a group, because I feel a lot of, and I know some people are more shy than others, and I get that because I know public speaking is a very scary thing for a lot of folks. But it's a skill that they have to have. If somebody's going to get out of school and go to a job, you still have to be able to interview. You still have to be able to have a meaningful conversation with folks.
It certainly does help. That's one of the things that I haven't done yet, but one of the things eventually that I want to do is help people in that. And I don't know if it's teaching it or whatever, you know. But I think that helps you not only in your career, job interviews, this, that, the other, or being interviewed or interviewing, you have to be able to communicate. I think it helps in relationships too, you know, just being comfortable with friendships, dating. I mean, if you're going to go out on a date at some point, you probably have to be able to
might want to know
talk.
how to talk.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's different now. I guess you just swipe left or right or whatever it is. I don't really know, but I've heard.
Me either.
My friends tell me about it.
Me either.
And I guess dating, there's a show.
But it's, we have one on that too. But there is a communication gap. Like I feel like a lot of people can't communicate. And I do blame technology a lot for that. But at the same time, you know, it's basic stuff. And I'm not saying everyone needs to be this big keynote speaker that can get up in front of 10,000 people. I think that's cool. I'll do that all day long. I think you would too. But that's not everybody's career path, but they still need to be able to communicate.
Did I tell you, quick side note, did I tell you that I wrote my mom a letter the other day?
No.
So I was thinking about this, you know, and we were trying to come up with concepts and ideas about what we were talking about. And writing a letter, you know, that's pretty much done nowadays. So I was like, I'm going to write my mom a letter. So I get out a piece of paper and I'm writing. I'm like, hey, Mom, just thinking about you. Don't really have anything to say, but I thought I'd write you a letter, you know. And I had Colton write a little. He's like, Dear Grandma, I love you. I can't wait to see you again, you know. So I thought she would like melt, you know. She's like, oh, my youngest son wrote me a letter. She calls me. She goes, hey, I got your letter. She's like, that's nice. Why'd you write? She goes, why didn't you just email me? I'm like, Mom, you missed the whole concept. So that was like a swing and a miss for me.
But letters, I do 2 handwritten notes a week. That's my rule. I send out 2 notes to whoever pops in my mind.
That's nice.
Because it is a lost art. And it's a life skill thing. And life skill is something where, again, I do feel, even though it's the parent's responsibility, not all children are fortunate enough to have parents that have good life skills. So I do feel that this does fall somewhat, if we are going to educate our children, we need to educate our children on things that are important. And life skills, one of them, writing a letter. We had, you know, my friend Jessica said that yesterday, her kids don't know how, she's teaching them how to address a letter. Because if you ask most children, they don't know how to address an envelope. Because they don't send letters or write a check. My niece said last night, she goes, I don't know how to write a check. That's crazy.
So interesting. With the check thing, and you know, with this move to where everybody's using credit and debit cards and all that, and this move away from cash, which I have my feelings on that as well. But yeah, it's a control issue. Sorry, I won't go down that rabbit hole. But you know, we're teaching our kids now with all of the apps and credit cards and all this, that, the other, that they do have to manage it at some point. So that the balancing a checkbook comes up a lot. But how do the credit card companies make money? Because I think a lot of kids are just like, oh, well, I just charge it and then I pay it at the end of the month. Well, it's like, yeah, you need to pay it on time. And you better pay all of it or they're going to tack on interest. Interest? What's that? Well, that's why they're so eager to give you that credit card. They're not doing it because they're wonderful. The banks aren't doing it because they like you and they want to help you. No, they want to make money off of you.
But we don't teach anybody that. So by the time kids apply for a credit card, they're past high school. You have to be at least 18. It's a legal contract, right? So we've gone through high school. We've not taught them anything about it. And then they get out and they get a little envelope in the mail that says, oh, you're pre-approved. And we haven't taught them how to do that.
So we don't teach them that.
Yes.
Right. And there's an industry that gains tremendously from their lack of knowledge.
Yes.
So do you think that industry might be happy with the level of education? That industry is going, hey, we don't need to teach them.
Yes.
No. They're good. They're good little dumb people. That's where we make our billions, right?
It's true. It's true.
Conspiracy Matt, sorry.
I know, conspiracy Matt showing up. But here's the thing. If that, for anybody listening, if that doesn't piss you off that we're not teaching it, then there's a problem. And
yes.
I don't know. I mean, I know I'm bringing a lot of stuff up, and we both are, but I don't know the solution to it other than we can take responsibility for our own kids.
Right.
But we can't continue like we're continuing. We can't teach an antiquated educational system where we aren't preparing them for real life.
Right.
We have to teach them to communicate. We have to teach them. I mean, we haven't even gotten into health and wellness. There's nothing around that. So kids get out, we've got obesity problems. We've got all kind of stuff, but because nobody really knows how to take care of themselves.
Calories are a lot like money, right? If you were with money,
we want a lot of money and little calories, though. Kind of opposite.
Right. And that's reversed. Like we got the two mixed up. Like calories in, calories out, money in, money out.
Right.
Don't spend more money than what comes in. Okay. If you break down all of the financial concepts, all the experts that are out there that talk about it, your Dave Ramsey's and everybody else that do wonderful things.
Yep.
It can be broken down to one very simple concept. Spend less than you make, right?
Yes.
Beyond that, you're just coloring everything in.
Right.
Calories, burn more than you take in.
Yes.
Right? That's it, right?
That's it.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, you got it. That's right.
Right. I was trying to make a point.
That was,
and then
it
I was
did.
second-guessing myself.
No, you were right. But that's true. But that's basic financial literacy. Mm-hmm. And again, every single person that responded, that came up.
Yeah.
And so we know that we need it, but we're not doing anything about it. And that's whacked.
Yep. And I think that's the problem, right?
Yep.
But is that not what we do as humans? A lot of times we know something's not right, or we know there's a problem, and we just ignore it, and we just keep pushing the cart down the road, right? It's like,
you kick
whatever.
The can.
Eventually, you do that for so long, and then you get in the situation that we know so many people who are in, and you look at the students. How much did we see about the astronomical student loan numbers?
Yes, a lot of our survey, we did ask the question on the survey, kind of what does debt look like for you? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the respondents were extremely forthcoming, which we appreciate. And there was like 120,000, 100,000, 80,000. I have a family member who is a physician, but 300,000 in debt. And I get that for, let me say this, because as a physician and in a very heavily specialized area, I get that. Mm-hmm. I get it that you need medical school's a long time. I do not get 120,000 of debt to go to a 4-year college for someone who is going to go into sales.
Right.
And I love sales. Like I'm all over sales.
Yeah.
It doesn't take the degree to do it.
A good salesman doesn't even need to graduate high school. Let's be honest.
No.
If you've got the gift of gab and you're charming and you can walk in and schmooze people, basically it'd be like, hey, oh, you're out of 6th grade?
Yep.
Have at it.
Well, that's like my youngest is in middle school, and she keeps telling me, she goes, all my teachers say that I'd be so good at sales. And I'm like, you would. She'd be phenomenal. I mean, she could sell anything. But the teachers are recognizing that now with her. And I think if we paid enough attention at that age, like she's in middle school, and the teachers, every single one, I'm like, that's what, and I told her, I'm like, you'd be great. I mean, everywhere we go, this child gets me discounts like you would not believe.
Yeah.
Like crazy discounts, because she's a
little negotiator.
Yeah, she negotiates, but that's a natural skill. So what I'm trying to do is develop that in her. But if teachers are seeing that in her and they're not able to do anything other than her curriculum, so they're like, oh my God, you'd be so good in sales. You're so good at communicating and blah, blah, blah. Now let's go learn about the layers of the earth.
Yeah.
And so, a child like her, she hates it. Yeah. She's in middle school asking when she can quit.
Yeah,
and that's a problem.
She's not too worried about magma and
subcutaneous
layers and whatnot.
Subcutaneous is skin.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah.
Matt clearly passed the layers of the earth quiz with subcutaneous.
Listen, I host stuff.
Exactly. But that, it goes back to the fact is we have to start teaching kids how to cultivate their strengths, their interests.
Yeah.
and the love of learning and curiosity. They're never going to love school, I don't think, the way it is now.
Some will. But when you were talking about people getting into the medical field and engineers, and careers that do need that education.
Yep.
But at a certain point, and I think you touched on this 10 or 15 minutes ago, at a certain point in your life, when you're feeling like you're going to go that direction, you know it.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, to get here, I am going to have to do this, this, and this. But everybody doesn't need to do that.
Right.
Now, when I'm driving my car over that big, tall bridge, and there's 18-wheelers on there, and there's 100 vehicles on this bridge, and I want the smartest dude in the room designing that.
Right.
When somebody's cutting my body open and either removing something or putting something else in, hopefully I want the smartest dude in the room. I want that dude that was always studying and was never out partying. Yeah, I want that guy doing the operation. Preferably.
Exactly. But whoever's selling you your car or selling this, or, the entrepreneurs, we're going to do a show on that, but it's those.
Yeah, I don't care about that guy. Yeah, right.
Right. Those I just want them to love what they do and follow this. So I want to make sure we're not knocking the educational system. I'm just saying that it needs to be reformed.
Right.
It needs to be changed.
I don't think you're knocking it.
I think we need to disrupt it. And I think if the pandemic taught us anything, it was that it forced people to look at everything.
Yeah.
Because like they're sitting at home, like I'm seeing my kids and they're talking about the stuff that's on their test. I mean, you and I couldn't pass the math test.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out how to do it. But that's what I want people to hear is get pissed off enough to make a change. Get pissed off enough to say, hey, this is what we need to see change. Because until we push it, it's not going to happen.
Okay, but where does the change come from? Schools run by government, right?
Yep.
Government agencies are not necessarily known for being strategic or they're
thoughtful.
Typically wasteful. They're typically behind in technology.
They have not learned budgeting.
Right.
Right. So, but I think, all right, so let's start here then.
And again, not knocking it.
Your conspiracy theory. No, I get it. Because it hasn't, we aren't going to change it overnight. This is a very big ship or whatever. And in order to get it moving in the right direction, it is going to be little incremental changes. So I feel like, if we can get people to do two things, first and foremost, make some noise. Go to the schools, go to the board meetings, go whatever you need to do to say this can't stay the way it is.
Right.
Because we're going to educate, we're going to piss kids off, we're going to educate them poorly. But I think the second thing we could do is make the list. Like everybody knew what was lacking. Yeah. No one struggled to answer that question when we said, what are you not learning? But maybe you make that life skill list. Like my friend Jessica was saying she's doing with her kids. Make the list of here are the things I want my kids to know and teach them to them.
Yeah. This was eye-opening for me, this little survey that your daughter helped us put together.
Yep.
Because it's one of those things where if you think about it and we have a conversation about it, it's one thing. We're like, well, everybody feels this way, don't they?
Right.
Well, we just saw it. Yes, they do feel that way, but it's different when they're actually, I don't know any of these people.
Yeah.
You probably know some of them on there. I guarantee you I don't know one of them. But they're all saying the same thing, that if I were to ask that in my circles, the answers would be the same.
You got the same answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we asked a bunch of your group too. Yep. Yeah. We were all getting the same thing.
Texting my son and his girlfriend the other day, hey guys, what about this? They said the same thing. Yeah, the answers were.
But even your neighbors and everybody, they all chimed in and everybody was feeling the same thing. So it's one of those things, and as we're wrapping this one, because I think we could talk about this for days, and we'll retouch on it again in a few other topics, but we've got to get angry enough to make a difference. And I don't mean like these angry mob type of thing. I just mean like start talking about it. Start saying, you know what, we're tired of it being like this. I hate the fact that I've got a middle schooler who's ready to quit school.
Yeah.
And I don't,
I can relate.
It just, you've got to do it. You got to do it.
What I love about entrepreneurialism is the fact that if the education system was a small business and we owned it, we would change it overnight.
Yes.
Because you would have to for the survival of the business. And that's what I love about being an entrepreneur. And it's like every day something happens, you're like, that you have to react to.
Yeah.
You can't just keep kicking the can down the road with a small business because it would be closed up and somebody else would come in and swallow you up because they would be doing it better. Well, nobody's going to come along and swallow up the entire education system. I mean, there's private schools out there that are doing that, but those come with a hefty price tag most of the time.
Yeah.
And those that are financially able to do it, well, they'll get the benefits, but that doesn't benefit everybody.
Nope.
So.
And it furthers the divide a little bit too. Yeah. So I think, as like I said, as we wrap on this, what I would love to see you guys do is figure out what needs to be taught and start teaching it to the people in your circle. Just affect your circle, whether it's your kids, your nieces and nephews, your friends, your neighbors, whatever. We've all got skill sets that we could give back to the younger community, and at the same time make some noise to the educational system that hopefully our grandkids aren't still going to have to do this, because I'm scared to death to think about the crud they're going to have to learn 20 years from now.
Yeah. They'll probably be learning the same crap that my dad learned. It's not going to change. But then where's this going to be? This will be surgically implanted in our bodies by then. You know what I mean? Like our cell phone will be in the back of our eye.
Yeah.
Or something.
That's true.
And in that way, we'll all be chipped. I'm kidding.
It's true. You never know. You never know.
I'm kidding. But great points today. And hopefully somebody else out there was thinking this too. And ideally, I think the thing that I wanted to get most out of this would somebody would watch this and say, there are other people out there that think like I do.
Right.
Because that's when it opens up. That's when it opens up your eyes. When you realize you're not the only one that feels a certain way about something. Right. It's like, hey, they're into it too.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, I'm so glad we got to talk about it, because I don't want to say happy. I was relieved to know that there were a lot of people that were thinking the same thing, that are like, okay, this is a problem. So if this many people think that it's a problem, so we've got to make some changes. Yeah. So that's what we're going to wrap on. What I would love you guys to do is make sure, write down your list, write your life skills list, write the things that you want to make sure your kids and the kids of today's world know, and start teaching them, using your gifts to do that, and keep moving. So Matt, thank you for being here in studio with us.
Loved it. Thanks for having me.
And we'll have a couple more conversations on some cool topics. So stay tuned, and we will see you next week.